hop in this, dude?
Let's just hop in, man.
Let's hop in, dude.
Hop in. Well, cheers, Chris.
This,
Thanks.
hey, John, real quick. John from Warbringer. This goes out to you, and still after 7 records, still being here, man. So,
Thanks,
congrats,
man.
brother.
Thank
Cheers.
you very much. Cheers.
That's whiskey.
Yep, that's some morning whiskey right there.
Yes.
Let's go.
That's whiskey at
It's pretty nice.
11:20 a.m.
Yeah. It's a shotgun. It's whiskey from a shotgun-shaped bottle, which is pretty, you gotta love it, man. Yeah.
I know, yeah. So yeah, this is the Machine Head of whiskey that they literally just dropped like this week. Hey, Jake, can we? All right, cool. Yeah, but it's a freaking good. It's a good whiskey, man.
Yeah, it was solid, dude. Nice. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
How the guys doing, man?
Guys are doing pretty well. We're just starting up rehearsals and we're gearing up. We got like a sort of test run show in Oxnard. Everybody's kind of gathering, and I just trucked across the country. So I actually drove from Nashville to LA with the van and then landed at the studio and did 4 or 5 songs in rehearsal. It was some of these Wrath and Ruin tunes that we haven't played before. So I'm just like, drive for 2 days straight, land, start screaming, and I'm like, that's good prep right there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's a long drive, dude.
I hit some crazy conditions. There was snow. Well, so around Amarillo, Texas, the whole I-40 was closed down because there was extreme high winds due to a fire, apparently. And so there was like 4 or 5 miles of big rigs just backed up. It held me up like 3-4 hours. I ended up taking a detour like 50 miles to the north or something, made it to Amarillo and was able to keep going. And then in Arizona, there was actually a snowstorm, like proper Nordic looking blizzard and shit. There were trucks all turned off, and I even saw, I shit you not, maybe like 6:30 a.m. I'm half delirious driving out of there, and there's like this majestic elk with a single horn, this huge fucker.
One horn, not
one horn.
Two. Okay.
Yeah, it's like you Grayscale, you could put him on an album cover if you're playing the right vibes of music,
8th record.
Like, he was cool. Well, I mean, probably something more like grim and atmospheric. Yeah, that, exactly. Whoa, I didn't see all the burning trucks like you got on there. But,
Is this it?
Yeah, it was crazy, though. I couldn't go through Flagstaff. I had to go south, but when I was like making that juncture or whatever, it looked all snowy like that, minus the burning. But
fuck, dude.
But it was crazy.
Sucks,
so I'm hoping I just used up all the bad weather on that run, and that means it's going to be smooth sailing while we actually do this lap around the USA that we're about to do.
Good, man. When you guys start?
We start, we do like the warm-up show tomorrow, and then the tour proper starts, I think, Tuesday, March 18.
Nice.
And we go to April 12th. We start in San Diego. We end in L.A., and we do a loop. I think we hit damn near everything except no New England, as everyone in the comments is letting us know.
Of course.
Yeah.
They always let you know.
They always let you know. And
you suck.
And we actually did go to Brazil this last year, but we still see come to Brazil. So there's no...
Of course.
Yeah.
Never stops, man. When does the snow stop?
The snow stop?
Yeah, I thought it was March, but I guess it's still going.
I mean, Arizona is not a place I would expect to see snow on the bingo card, but it was there. We didn't get any snow where I'm at this year. Got like a little below freezing, but it's pretty warm. It's like warm now. Most things are warming up. I don't know. I'm in LA now, so it's like the sky's sunny. I have no idea when it might snow on the trip or not. Hopefully not too much, but if it does, it's nothing we haven't seen before.
Yeah, so you're living in Florida, right?
Yeah, so I moved from, I lived in LA pretty much my whole life, for those who don't know me. And then about 2 years ago, my wife and I, we took all the money we saved and we got the hell out of there. And we moved to the center of nowhere, basically, Hawthorne, Florida. So it's about halfway between Tampa and Orlando and north central Florida. We're about 2 hours from each, hour and a half south of Jacksonville-ish. And I straight up live in the swamp. And it's glorious, dude. It's freaking good. The only thing that sucks is the bug bites, which are legitimately horrible. But everything, we found this house that it had been abandoned for 13 years.
13 years?
The guy who built it had died. His wife had died. Then he went off to like a nursing home, and his two brothers, apparently they were jerks or something, and they couldn't figure out what they wanted to do with it. So they fought over it and didn't do anything for like 13 years, and then finally said screw it and sold it. And so we got 3 acres, like for like $300K, something we could actually afford, because we couldn't like afford a house in LA where everything costs like twice that. We were able to actually get it. It's 3 acres on a private lake, and everyone else who lives there is freaking old. So when we go out on the lake, we're the only ones there. This lake's like a mile across. Wow. It's like ours. It's fucking beautiful. Crazy. So we lucked out super hard. I'm the kind of guy who only does like safe, reasoned moves, and this wasn't that. Yeah. So I just kind of went with what my wife wanted on this one, and it turned out so great. But yeah, we have cats and chickens, and I shit you not, a wild bird from the forest befriended our chickens and now lives in the coop with them. We unintentionally domesticated a guinea fowl, which looks kind of like if you...
What's a guinea fowl?
It looks kind of like if you took a flamingo.
What's a guinea fowl?
It's like like an ugly flamingo. It's like a flamingo that's the color of a cinder block.
So it's an ugly flamingo.
It's kind of cute. It runs surprise. Yeah, it's something like that. Ours is a little lighter gray, more like that one on the bottom left is how the one we got looked. But I was talking to my wife the other day. I'm like, I want to know what this bird's story is, because it would come out. It lives in the coop now, but for maybe 5 months or something, every single day in the morning, this freaking bird comes out of the forest and just hangs out outside our chicken coop, because I guess it like wants to be best friends with our chickens, and eventually it just started living with them, so we unintentionally domesticated a wild bird, which is some like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs shit to me, you know.
What do you feed it?
Same stuff that we feed the chickens, which is like mealworms and like seeds and corn and stuff and whatever
seeds,
corn. And kitchen leftovers, you know.
Kitchen leftovers, yeah, dude. Yeah. Dude, what a time to have chickens when like eggs are fucking crazy right now.
We had our prize hen is named Anthrax, and it's and the rooster's name is Thrasher.
You would, John.
I would. Thrasher the rooster is a real thrasher. That guy's screaming every morning, and he's aggressive as fuck, even though he's like a really little guy. You know, he's great. But anyway, a fox was eating our chickens, and we weren't like good at keeping them because we hadn't owned chickens, certainly not in LA. So we lost like 3 of them. And my wife actually caught the fox holding Anthrax the hen, ripped the skin off her neck. We thought she was going to die. Really? And she came back, and then after that got real fat and started laying an egg damn near every day, and they're good. She's like a prize-winning blue ribbon hen, that one. We don't really... Just her alone is like all the eggs we eat. And we got like 3 more that are younger that are growing up, and we're like, dude, we're not going to know what to do with all these eggs. So I guess that's the solution to all the price of eggs, the economy stuff, because we bought eggs like once or something since she started laying. And that's something we wanted to do, is kind of just like, you know, as you see on the record that we wrote here, I don't have a optimistic viewpoint of where society and civilization is headed.
Wrath and Ruin out now.
Wrath and Ruin out now. Yeah, it's a banger, all right. But anyway, it's a dystopian, cynical, depressive record in a lot of the lyrical themes, and that's how I actually do feel, so that's why it's on the record. But trying to move out into the middle of the forest and grow plants and raise chickens and just like not hear as much mechanized stuff, you know, like you do in the city.
Yeah, like the freeway.
Right.
It's funny if you sit where it's like, especially in the morning, like morning, it's quiet, you just listen. I'm like, oh, that's the freeway. It's loud as fuck.
It's loud. One of the things I notice is, you know, when you do go like camping or hiking or whatever, someone will say like, oh, it's so quiet and peaceful here. And it occurred to me that what they're noticing is the absence of the constant mechanical hum.
Yes.
And if you notice the absence and you notice like, oh, it's so nice to have that absence, then you can logically conclude that the presence of that is somehow bad for you. Like mentally, emotionally. I think it is. It must be. I definitely just feel a little better where I'm at now. You know, the bank still owns my ass and stuff, at least probably for another 10 years or something. Sure. But like, I'll actually get out of it on the other end, and that's really exciting. And the other exciting part, I gotta say, my biggest concern, just fucking off to the other side of the country, was like my band and being able to continue music. And so it's encouraging that like, well, I'm here, I'm in LA, we're doing it. I can get my ass out here, even if it's by plane, train, or car, and we can book tours all the time and just keep doing it, and I can live in my forest and still play my metal.
Awesome,
so I'm really happy about that.
Dude, I've always wondered something I want to do. I mean, you're kind of living what I want to do. I've always wanted to like kind of live somewhere where I could own chickens. I do want my own chicken coop. That's like a goal. I'm 39, so maybe like when I get like my own like house, like how do those eggs taste?
They're great.
They're great.
They're a little better. I like brown eggs better than white eggs. Ours is a copper Moran, which is apparently prized. It is fat as hell. And Anthrax laying good eggs all the time.
Anthrax laying good eggs all the time.
All the time.
That's a quote. Nice.
Yeah. We had others. We had 2 chickens named Slayer that both were killed by foxes. So we're not going to name another one Slayer. But yeah, we've been naming our chickens after, and we had a little tiny silky hen with like a fro over its face that looked hilarious, and that one was called Skull Taker.
Skull Taker.
All the chickens get brutal names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you solve the problem with the foxes?
Basically, the problem with the foxes was that we were letting the chickens out of their coop and not putting them in soon enough. So we're just a lot more vigilant on that. When it's starting to become dusk, in they go, and we don't let them out when we're not like out in the yard.
Oh, okay.
So they stay in. I was just letting them out all the time, partially because I wanted them to hang out with the freaking guinea fowl who we call Blockhead. They all have names, yeah.
Attaboy.
So we just wanted them to hang out because we were like, this is magical. A fucking wild forest bird is hanging out with our chickens. Let's let them do it. It's so cute. And but that got a couple of them killed because I would just let them out and let them walk around the yard all day. And sometimes while I'm like inside doing stuff, and you can't do that apparently. Because there's just too much shit that wants to eat them. We got hawks, vultures, ospreys, foxes, raccoons, all this shit. And our chickens do look delicious, I do have to say. So, yeah, it's mostly just like we don't let them out unless we're out doing stuff. And we're always doing yard work. It's endless, dude. It's dense jungle. Get your machete, get your pickaxe. Like, I'm clearing away to our dock right now, and it's thick, dense vines. I learned how to use a chainsaw. Like, it's
you got
cool.
a chainsaw?
Well, I don't have a lot of tools. We got a neighbor, an old couple called Doug and Heather, and they were super nice. And Doug was in like construction building his whole life, so he's like a sage for anything I need to know about like my property or home. I'll usually hit him up, and so in return, like we borrow each other's shit. He's borrowing my wheelbarrow all the time, and I got to borrow his chainsaw for a few days, and I cut down a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm splitting logs with an axe. It's pretty nice, dude. It feels nice to just do that stuff a little every day. It's like, because when I was living in an apartment in LA, like sometimes you wouldn't want to leave too much, or I wouldn't go further than like the grocery store on the corner or whatever. And sometimes we go walking, we're on a dirt road, we'll go walking down it like in the middle of the night and we won't see a soul. Yeah, it's great, dude. It gets, sometimes I'll spook myself because it gets dark in a different way out there.
That would scare me.
It did at first. Like at first at night when I was like there alone, it was so goddamn like just utterly pitch black at night because there's no city light.
There's no city light.
No, and it's really different. Like dark in the forest. If the moon's not out, it's straight up. You can't see your hand in front of you. We got some like solar lights up our driveway, so like our immediate area is nice. Looks really pretty at night actually. But yeah, going down the road, you can't see shit, and we'll like sometimes even walk with the flashlight off and stuff just to try to get used to it because we know consciously that we're safe. Like there's nothing there. We think we may have had a bear in our yard once because we heard something real big moving around. You hear stuff there, but the critters don't want to screw with you. They just want to stay away. So as long as you don't aggravate them, it's fine.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, I'm always like if I'm like around like if it's dark, I'm around like a bush. I'm like, and especially you're like high. You're like, oh, there's like creatures in there. But, but they won't fuck with you because you're like to them you're like big.
Also, so I remember one time too, I heard a rustling in the bush and it sounded like scary. I was getting kind of scared and it was all loud and it turned out to be my cat Zumi. And so the thing I noticed from that, the thing I learned was the rustling in the bush sounds like the animal weighs 10 times as much as it does. Because I was thinking something like the size of a large dog or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was my little freaking skinny black cat that made this, And so every time I hear a rustle and I don't know what it is, I'm like, that thing probably is like way smaller than I think it is. But there's definitely stuff out there. We have armadillos, like it's kind of wacky, dude. We caught a 4-pound bass from the lake and learned how to cook it up. It turned out good. I found some way to like purify the fish. You soak it in like salt and apple cider vinegar and cold water for like 20 minutes. If you're wondering, because our lake is muddy, we're in Florida, so it's swampy as hell.
Swampy lake.
It's and so like been learning a lot of that stuff, and I got a lifetime of learning that, because basically my goal now is keep doing the band and like lock down this house. I want to stay there. I love it. The only concern I had for touring was like, damn, I really like being at home now. It's great. My wife and I are doing good. The land is pretty. I got every day that I'm not like working, I'm making progress on it. So that's like exciting. When we got there, dude, holy shit. I had to cut down like 40 trees or something just to like clear the perimeter, not even to make a path to the dock or, any of the other places in our land, just to clear the side of the house. And I raked leaves for like 2-3 weeks straight. Like every day I'm out there for hours, just piles of leaves. I made like a 50-foot wall that became mulch, and we like planted a bunch of shit in. But like ungodly, unbelievable amounts of stuff. I have this burn barrel that was like, it's just the fires of Mordor going for days and days. The first summer was like really rough, I gotta say. But we kind of got it to a nice equilibrium now. But it's cool. It feels like because we did all that work, it's like, this is ours, and we really have that connection to it now.
So it was your wife's idea to move there?
Yeah, I don't get any crazy ideas. I'm always like here's the budget, and we have to be practical and reasonable. And like, there's value to that kind of thinking too. Sure. There's also value to taking leaps. It's kind of my inclination usually to like not change anything pretty much. And, So it's nice that I have someone who will like push me in different ways, and my role is to kind of rein her in so she doesn't do anything fucking crazy,
No, that's cool, man. It sounds like you really found your spot. It's awesome, man. Congrats.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah,
and the band too.
And dude, you're 39, I'm 38, so I hope you land such a thing too. It's real nice, and the encouraging part for me is that I'm like, here I am. I'm doing the band. It's happening. Yeah. I didn't have to sacrifice it for it. And I still talk to a bunch of my friends from LA too. So that's, of course. And I end up here a fair amount thanks to the band, actually. So
yeah. You're here now.
It's
awesome, man. So Warbringer started in 2004, correct?
End of 2004, and nice. What this looked like was I had basically just been getting into first rock music, then heavy metal, then like first it was like a mixture of like classic rock and like new metal, which I was in high school at that time. Oh yeah. That was my gateway. No, I did start with that. If you take like a certain era of new metal stuff from basically the time I was in middle and high school, I know all of it.
Oh,
so we could and I still enjoy a lot of the songs are catchy and well written. I'm an old cross your arms and scowl Hesher riff solos or get out. I am that guy, and I play in a thrash band. But like, no, that was absolutely my gateway for it, and awesome, man. It was really cool. My first big concert was Ozfest 2001, and that was like right in the midst of that. So it was like there's like Taproot, Disturbed, Papa Roach, Linkin Park, and Slipknot, and Marilyn Manson. It was like all of that.
Cool.
So, hey, it was a cool show, man. I dug that show.
Crazy Town?
Mudvayne, Black Label Society. It was cool. Crazy Town was there. They were like the weakest live band of the day, I gotta say. No, Linkin Park, Papa Roach, I really liked those bands a whole lot. Still know like the records of that era. I know those records front to back. I do have to say, yeah. So, because that's just what I was into. And then from there, I kind of ended up because I saw Black Sabbath and I'd already like known it. And then from there in my metal journey, I kind of just went forward. I went from my Sabbath to your like Maiden Priest to your like Thrash to your Death and Black, and at the same time too, I knew like this Russian kid, Viktor Mikhalsevich, who I was in like some summer school program with, and he was into metal, like, so we knew like Painkiller and stuff, and then he was like all into like Children of Bodom and like Winter Sun and everything that shredded. And he was like a kind of weird guy. But he introduced me to John Locke's in Newbury Park, where he was from. I was from like 30 minutes away. And that's how Warbringer started. And so I date the founding of the band at the end of 2004. to where I showed up at John Locke's house and we had like a Line 6 practice amp and
Of course you did.
Of course we did, yeah, like everyone else.
Fuck yeah.
And we had no PA, and we did like Peace Cells and from Megadeth, of course, and People Alive from Creator, like guitar and vocal only with no PA, and that was the first stuff we ever played. He had been in John Locke's had played in one band so far, which was like I think something pop punk leaning called Aquatic Barn Owl. The name was funny, so it stuck in my head.
Cool name.
Yeah, it was. And so it was my first band and his second, and we really started. Victor Mikhalcevic, I have to tell a story of how he got fired. We couldn't get him to practice one day because he had to mine. He said he couldn't do it because his RuneScape guild had told him he had to mine 10K lobster. And the phrase mining lobster just cracks me up to this day because I just imagine someone like swinging a pickaxe at a rock furiously and like a bunch of lobsters are flying out.
Yeah.
And so, that got him sacked, but he was the point of connection. He introduced, his role in the band's history was he introduced me and the Loxes and also Adam Carroll, who lived in Ventura. And like the rest of us were kind of dorks, and Adam Carroll, like smoked pot and rocked when he was younger and stuff. So, and like skipped school and stuff. And we were all like the rest of us were all like goody two shoes suburban kids. So like Adam Carroll played our drums, and that was the first Warbringer demo lineup right there.
Nice.
We wrote that was by end of 2005. We have a demo. It took us probably like 3-4 months of practice before we could finish one of our own songs. We were like straight from the ground up.
Boom.
So we got signed really, that's the second EP right there. There's one, this one we can like kind of play by it.
MySpace.com/Warbringer.
Oh yeah, that we were in that's right. That was what was around there. So we used that. We put out our music there. Both of these we recorded in like a day. Oh yeah, that's at a wall by the train tracks in Ventura. That's, we had, so for a minute, there was 2 bands running parallel. There was Warbringer, which was like me and the Loxes, and then Adam Carroll on drums and Warbringer. And Adam Carroll played guitar in a band that you can find on Metal Archives with a big yellow logo called Zombie, which actually has some pretty good riffs, man. And that did a split with like another underground band, Sacrificial Blood. And that was the only other band I've ever been in. And eventually, before we did that EP that you just had there, the One by One, The Wicked Fall, which has Total War on it and stuff, I kind of was like, well, I wanted to take the 2 halves of the band, kind of like make a stronger lineup out of it. And so that's what we did. Adam like quit for a while, and I kid you not, like went off into the forest to live for a time. Like that actually happened.
Yeah, Adam quit twice.
Well, he didn't quit the second. It's so much as he had to go like care for his grandmother.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't because he didn't want to do it. The first time he was pissed at us, and because I think he was like pissed off at me.
What'd you do?
I tried to like basically sabotage Zombie by merging it into Warbringer. I think he was pissed about that.
Oh, that's not a bad thing.
I think it's for the best in the long run. At the time, it was like that was his thing, and Warbringer was my thing. So you could see how he wouldn't lie. Like I understand that.
Yeah.
He ended up, so in that picture you had Emilio Hostet in Adam Carroll's spot. And then Adam Carroll joined for War Without End. That's the line. So War Without End lineup was basically Zombie and Warbringer together. It was those guys there with bottom right, Emilio Hostet. Adam Carroll was there, and that was the first album. So we had lineup changes, even in the demo days. It was just something we had to juggle. Yeah, we all do. It's tough. Warbringer's had more than its fair share. We're almost Spinal Tap level.
Yeah.
And I think on one hand, I kind of bemoan that because I'm like, I've had to deal with way too much of this as the guy who's always there.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, I'm like, doesn't matter. We're an unstoppable tank, dude. That's
what's up, John.
The band is there. That big freaking spiky logo. That's the soul. It's there. Whoever's there is. We will not have anyone there who's not a solid player, who doesn't believe in it, who can't do it. And so the band itself will like exist in some form or another as long as I'm there doing it.
Yeah. I was saying, it's cool to see. I was looking at like the lineups. I'm like, it's really cool to see Adam back, and it's also cool to see Carlos.
Oh yeah,
back.
Carlos, Adam and Carlos, we've kind of had a real stable phase since 2017. There's kind of like 2 eras in the band's history, which you could call the Century Media era and the Napalm Records era. But there was a full like collapse of the band in between those 2.
Yeah.
The Loxes quit, and so like
What were the years?
So like 2000, records wise, I guess 2008 to 2014, first 4 albums is the first half, and then Woe to the Vanquished to present is the second half. So it's 4 and 3 right now.
Yeah, because if you don't know who Carlos Cruz is, he now plays drums also in Nails.
Yes.
Cool. A really awesome drummer. I got to jam with him a couple months ago. He's fucking sick, dude. Playing some Slipknot tunes.
Oh,
it was rad. Sweetwater. When the band needs anything for a tour or we need something here for the podcast, Sweetwater is where we go. They are the #1 online retailer for pro audio and music instruments. So if you need any music gear fast, click the link in the description below so they know you came from this podcast. That's Sweetwater, your #1 place for pro audio instruments. I'm here to tell you about DistroKid, the easiest way to get the music you or your band wrote on all streaming platforms. Get your songs onto iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, and more. Check it out at distrokid.com/VIP/Garza and get 30% off your membership. That's distrokid.com/VIP/Garza to get 30% off. So I met you, John, in 2009.
Yes.
We did that tour together, and I was it with Megadeth, correct?
Well, that was later. We did. So we toured with Suicide Silence in. I believe it might have been 2008. It was like I think it was actually the second Warbringer tour ever. We did so our touring history. We did like a week when we got our record deal. We did like a week on the West Coast with Suffocation. Just because they really wanted us to get some experience, which we desperately needed.
Yeah, of course.
And 2008 and 2009, we just like launched off and basically weren't home those 2 years.
I saw 2009. You played like 300 shows, and you guys pretty much almost killed you guys.
Yeah, we full on had like fist fights in the band and everything. It was bad. We did it though, and that made us into the live band we are today. We just had the reps, but we had been a garage band that had. It was like my first band. I had no experience with touring, and it's just a whole, as you know, it's a whole different thing.
Sure.
The tour we did with Suicide Silence was our second tour ever, actually, our second like full-length tour, because we did Exodus, Arsis, Goat Horror, like very beginning of 2008, and then after that was Nile and Suicide Silence.
And
I remember the thing I remember this one kid outside. It was like somewhere in the Midwest, and he was like sitting outside talking shit about. He was there to see Suicide Silence. He was sitting there talking about shit about Nile. He's like, I just want to hear breakdowns with no fucking guitar solos. And that quote stuck in my head. Yeah. Well, hey, if that's what you like, that's what you like. And so at the time, I was just like that. The vigor with which he said that. It was like, for me, I'm a fucking metal guy, so I'm like, no guitar solo.
And Warbinger's there. It has 30 guitar solos.
We have so many guitar solos. The Total War has like 5 guitar solos.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So that's it. That was a great tour though, and you guys were cool as hell to us. And it was cool, and we brought like a variety of different metal styles to the people. I remember too, later we played a show much later with Nile, and from the stage I was like, it's an honor to open up for Nile and all their fucking gear, because they wouldn't strike a single piece even though we're in this tiny place. I'm like, God damn it, you guys, come on.
Of course, man.
Yeah, so that they were not always like the easiest to deal with from like a logistical level, because that's the thing with just all these bands. It's like, dude, you're in a small club, like don't pretend. If you're at a festival, that's one thing, play it there, but you're not, so like adjust.
Yeah, man, that was it was I will say now, John, it was very pleasant and an honor to always share a little case of beer with you and always share our Little Caesars.
We had our Little Caesars hot and ready, a.k.a. what I've started to call the Little Caesars hot and ready. If you get that from a club, we call that the fuck you meal.
Yeah.
We have decided, so we do owe you dinner on the rider, and we're going to fill that obligation as cheaply as possible. Hot and ready pizza, so, but you know what? I was 20, I ate so much Little Caesars.
Young, dude.
Little Caesars and Pabst Blue Ribbon, that was like, lived on that for at least a couple years, I would say.
We get Pabst and Little Caesars for a fucking month straight.
Yeah, I have
and
drank
share it fucking with 4 bands.
Yep, here's the bounty of the road, Pabst and Little Caesars. It was great, man. And you guys were young too. You guys were like blowing up then, so it was really cool to see like the reaction you guys got and everything. And it was just cool. It was like we got exposure to a bunch of different musicians, and learned a lot from the road there. So that was the first one we did. That was like OG van touring times. And then we did that Megadeth run later. And I gotta say, you guys were really nice to us on that, because we were coming off, we were like still vanning it, and you guys had a bus then, and you guys would let us like cycle out sleeping on the Suicide Silence bus. And so we did appreciate that, because cool. We're like, these guys don't, you don't have to do that. You don't owe us anything. So we really appreciated that. And
we learned that from the Nile tour, or how not to treat bands.
Yeah. No, it's a weird thing. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but everyone who's like, I guess now 20 years later, who's below 40 years old, like gets it on that level. And everyone who's older than that doesn't. And I don't understand why.
True.
Not everyone, but most. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Like you meet any band below like a certain age, I guess like millennials and younger or whatever, and they're like, yeah, it's tough on the road. We all got to help each other. That's the collective thing. We got to, everyone's got to make the show happen. And you go like with older bands, and they're like, you're not allowed to do, strict limitations on everything.
Can't use my shower, dude.
Can't use my shower. I got chewed out by, I won't name names, but I got chewed out by someone once because, like, I went and took a shower after I got off stage in the backstage bathroom, and the dude had to take a shit. And it's like, okay. So he makes me, like, get out of the shower and stand there by, like, off the, you could like see me from the crowd, but there's like a walkway and people going by. Got to stand there in my towel while this guy takes a shit, stinks up the room, and I got to go back in.
Man.
I'm like, I understand, like, okay, using the public bathroom is not, like, ideal if you're about to go on stage, but, like, you can do it. I've done it.
Yeah.
Like,
I still do it.
Yeah, it's like, it's not going to hurt you. You might have to greet someone in the bathroom. Oh, no,
Yeah.
So, like, but, like, you're willing to do that, and chew. And then after they were trying to get me to apologize, I'm like, I'm not going to fucking apologize to you. I don't care.
Yeah, fuck 'em.
Yeah, I don't care if you're the fucking headliner. Like, like,
fuck 'em.
So what? You're future pile of, one future pile of dust said to the other, I'm so fucking great, like, screw you, man. Get some perspective.
Yeah, man. I had a really pleasant memory with Adam. We were drinking, and then we were listening to Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
And we're like, did we just become best friends? Dude, if you listen to thrash and metal and you don't like the song Just Dance, you're a poser. That song is fucking sick. I mean, I just remember,
it's a good song, dude.
I remember like we bonded during that song. I think that song just came out. It was fucking sick. Just drinking,
dude. I gotta say, a lot of her arrangements and stuff are really catchy. And I think if you're writing metal, you absolutely should have an eye open to what people do to make music like work in different ways. In her case, she does all these like vocal hook layerings. She's really good at that. And I look at that and I'm like, so I'm not going to have that's, we're not a pop group, but I can look and be like, oh, the hook works because this. I can learn when I try to make my hooks. And what can I do so I'm screaming and the band's playing 200 BPM and up and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what can I do to get hooks into there? And if you look at bands, at artists like her, where it's like it's all hook basically,
yes, the whole song's a hook.
It's like, okay, you can learn about hooks and how to craft them from looking at stuff where that's like their speciality. So I absolutely think, like, I often think that my goal when writing some of this extreme thrash shit is to be as hooky as I can, while still kicking your teeth in.
It's hard to do.
It is, but like it's worth, and that's part of what drew me to a lot of the older stuff is because it still has that like old rock and roll hookiness to it, even though the guitars are cranked and whatever. Thrash, I think, is like, I think the more extreme end of thrash is like as extreme as you can get while still like basically being a rock band. And then somewhere in early death metal, it crosses over to where like not anymore, which I like a lot too. Like some early death metal still like basically rocks, and then some of it gets super like esoteric and like dense and stuff and is like something else altogether. And I like both sides of it. But it's just an interesting thing is like old metal still is so rooted in basically just like hard rock music, and I like that, and it draws me to it, you know.
You're right. Yeah, a lot of like the '80s death metal or thrash, early '90s, barely early '90s. It has. I didn't realize that it has like the more like simple vocals.
Simple vocals, and you know, if you listen to, I don't know,
Simple
like Massacre or something, like Cryptic Realms verse riff, that's basically fucking like a rock groove, you know. It's just like with dense ass.
Yeah.
Enter to the nether world, you know, like.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when it stopped?
When did what stop?
That the just the rock pattern vocal. What?
I don't know, man. I think sometime in the 90s, and I don't think there's like a year, because you can find releases before or after that go one way or the other. But I think by a certain point that like death metal in particular, like black metal goes its own way, and then death metal in particular, I think kind of like you end up where it becomes a lot about like some of the technical aspects, I suppose. And I don't know. So I think that there's some cool stuff that exists there, but I'm like just old school Hesher in my taste. So, you know, that's not talking about anyone else's taste, just my own. But like, I feel like you almost lose more than you gain in a lot of cases. And that depends. I like some tech death. I like some like brutal stuff. But it's usually for me, that's like a shorter thing. But I can go back to like, I don't know, like the old Morbid Angels or fucking like Massacre, like Death, Leprosy, or that's it. I can go back to that a whole bunch because I hear hooks everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And at the end of the day, like we were talking with Lady Gaga, I fucking like hooks, dude. I do, you know?
Yeah.
So I try my best to have them. You'll notice if you listen to Warbringer, I like never don't rhyme. Adam has a term for that. He says, I'm a mother goose motherfucker, because I can't even write without just rhyming couplets everywhere. And
rhyming's sick, dude.
Dude, rhymes are sick, man. And that's, you can look at all kinds of music to see just the power of that. Here's my thinking. So if I'm screaming, right, so music, as you know, has two basic elements. There's melody, there's rhythm, right?
Okay.
And if you're a singer, you got this third element, which is the language you're singing, words.
Okay.
So if you're going to be an extreme vocalist, you're basically leaving melody off the table. You're like, I'm not going to use that tool.
Okay.
Right? I don't. I think I've sung 2 pitched notes in my career.
Okay.
There's a whoa-oh in one dimension that's pitched, and everything else is just rasping, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm leaving melody off the table. I can't leave words off the table too, or I'm just like limiting my toolkit too much.
Yeah.
There's some examples. So for instance, I love Obituary, and he's literally not saying words half the time. So that you can, there's exceptions to every rule. Yeah. But I'm just saying, for me, I'm like, okay, I want you to, if I'm not going to be giving you, you know, melodic pitches in there and giving a vocal melody on top of the riffs or whatever, and it's just a rhythm pattern.
Yeah.
I want the words to be up front and be decipherable and be catchy and stuff and have cool rhymes and you know. So I do my best at that, and that's something that's important to me in my style, I think.
Nice. Yeah. Did so just curious, it's because obviously you mentioned earlier that you got into first middle school, high school, you're into the new metal, you're at Ozfest, but when you were younger, your father would tell you stories about war and right? How old were you?
Young. I remember when I was like learning to read in kindergarten, because my dad would play like war games on the like early 90s DOS war games on the PC, and like had like model tanks and stuff, and I thought all that was cool. So like I was pretty young when I could tell you the difference between like, you know, like a Sherman and a Pershing, a Panzer III or a Panzer IV or whatever. I could recognize all that still. I just got into all that stuff as a kid. You gotta know there's the early short barrel Sherman, and then the longer barrel Sherman, the EZ8 they call it, where they have this long barrel 76 on it. You see the two variants next to each other on the top. I can get into that stuff. Like my dad will just okay. We'll be here all day if we want to talk tanks.
In, please.
But yeah, basically the short barrel Sherman has like a gun that's well suited to like infantry support, like blasting a position or a bunker. But it can't handle like heavy enemy armor very well. So that's why you see like the movie Fury or something. It takes like 3 Shermans to fight a Tiger and they lose 2.
Okay.
You know, that kind of stuff was real. And you know, it's so my dad just like kind of like me is like low end, borderline a little autistic, not in the sense that you can't like socialize, but
he knows a lot of detail about certain subjects.
The obsessive detail about certain subjects. I have a little bit of that too. Probably, and he visited recently. I didn't see my dad for a very long period of my life. He actually visited my house like a month ago.
Oh, wow. It's dope.
And he's the same freaking way. If you're like, talk about like the battles in Russia in 1942, 43 or something, you'll just be there forever. And the detail is endless.
World War II, right?
Yeah, correct. But any of them. Like, you can go Second Boer War, you can go First World War, you can go Alexander, you can go Caesar. Like, there's all of it. And I know more than anybody I know. And then my dad knows way more than me. And I'm like, wow, that's like, you're a serious nerd. That's impressive, you know. But he got me into that because the way he talks about it, people who have that hyperfixation, their passion comes out of them when they speak sometimes.
Totally.
And so I thought it was just fascinating because, like, you know, battles are fucking crazy. Like, you can't believe, you know, looking at it now, I'm like, I can't believe humans did all this.
I know. If you look back in history, it's humans are still dark now, but back then you're like, damn, it was just fucking even more ruthless with war and how they fought. And
I don't know if there's been a time where that's not entirely ruthless. And the record of it, when you look at it in the big picture, is sort of like a damning indictment of the human race. You might say that my conclusion from looking at all this stuff is if we get the asteroid, we'll deserve it. You know,
sure.
That's where I end up being a pacifist too. Like, that's where I end at looking at all this shit for years and reading about Napoleon and the Panzer divisions and the fucking bombing raids and all of it, you know. But it's so my dad got me into that definitely when I was very young. I remember when I was 5 years old, I'm in kindergarten, I'm learning to read, and I bring in something about Pearl Harbor, and the like remedial helping your kid learn to read lady counselor that they had, I was like reading that, and it talked about, you know, like planes strafing people with machine guns, and I'm like 5, and she's like, we need to put this away, and I'm like, what? We're getting to the good part. You know, like so I was like a weird 5-year-old, you know. But no, I got into that really young. I played chess when I was really young. So like strategy games and stuff went with that. Yeah, they got me on. I was pretty good for I was able to beat like a 3rd grader and stuff. I haven't played in a while, but like I'm a pretty good like strategy game player. Probably like okay at best at chess, but other ones I'm pretty good at. And like that's just a hobby I've had forever. So all that kind of like trickles into what's floating around my head when I write for my band and how it got the name it has and the themes it has in the first place. I'm just like, if you're a metal band and you want to write about the most brutal thing, that's it. Just period.
History
and the present. Because the whole reason you even give a fuck about history is to give context to what you see in the present. That's the entire use of it.
Yeah.
If anyone says, what's the use of knowing this? There it is. That's my answer. Because without it, you don't get any straight answers from history, but you get context. And so you can understand, you know, there hasn't been, I've never lived in global peacetime, and neither has anyone else.
No one has
ever. Yeah, basically no one. And that's a tragedy. It's absolutely should not be that way, but it is. And so you try to understand that, and the only thing you can look at is, since the present is already gone, it's a second long, and the future is unknown, the past is all you got as a lens of analysis, and that's the point. That's the whole, when I tell students and stuff that, because I've done some teaching, and they give me the what's the point of this, I have to have an answer. That's my answer.
Okay, so you've done some teaching?
I've done some, yes. So I went and got a history degree, and for 4 years out in L.A., I did that around Woe to the Vanquished. So that's when I got kind of more formalized with my understanding, and because my dad taught me about like what tank was what, and you know, what was happening, which year of World War II or whatever. And that's not like super serious. That's interesting, but like proper historical analysis is something deeper, and you get more into sociological and economic causes and cultural history, and it's this vast web of stuff basically, and the question you're trying to answer is, why did the stuff that happened happen? You know, why does the world outside me look the way it does and not some other way? That's the question you're ultimately trying to answer by looking at any of this, whether ancient or modern. I mostly know like French Revolution forward, which we'd call basically modern Western history. That's the thing I know the most. But I've dabbled in all kinds of stuff, and it's just endlessly fascinating. It's more than I could ever know, and it's rich ground for like writing metal, because there's all these dramatic and crazy events. There's all this stuff that's been written on, and it's all just laying there for you to pick up and like grab and write about. And it can lend you some of that gravitas where like, I'm not making up some random, this is real stuff, and you can even draw on sources. I've used like poems and stuff from time periods. And I think that's something after I went and studied, because I was like, is this too nerdy? Should I do this? I'm like, no, this is going to make the work more like artistically valuable to draw on real stuff. And I think it does. And the records we've done since I kind of did that have been our most critically acclaimed and stuff. So I think it was the right move for us. But yeah, it's just it's a great source of things. And it does come from my dad, so it's that just kind of got stamped on me, and I was responsive. And when my dad came over to visit, we're talking all this stuff, and I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, look, Dad, I freaking know this, right? Like I can tell you
For real, man.
what happened in the Second Boer War and how that shaped strategic doctrine moving forward into the early 20th century, and how the British Army reformed as a result of their experience fighting the commandos. And then he's like, yeah, and if they hadn't had that, they probably would have got massacred by the Germans in 1914, and so because they were not fighting correctly for what happened with modern firepower. In case you didn't know, one of the most interesting periods for like battles,
Please.
is between about the middle of the night, like 1850s to World War I, because every strategic thought that the commanders had basically became obsolete because firepower didn't increase by like twice. It increased by like 100-fold. You have a cannon in like the Civil War and you could put out like a couple shots a minute. The French 75, the first like modern artillery piece, is made in 1897, and that sucker can fire like 40 rounds a minute. And it can shoot you like a mile away. And this is like, we're talking like mechanical breech load, there's no digital anything on this. But you can, if you read something like Barbara Tuchman, The Guns of August, there's a bit that describes the effect of a battery of these fired on a formation of like ranked men. And it describes them basically. They were packed so dense when they get hit by a battery of these firing shrapnel that they're like a row of them leaning to the side. The necks are stacked like here, and it's described them as like a flying buttress of men just like perforated by shrapnel to various degrees. You could find these scenes that like you couldn't imagine in hell, and it's real, and people actually went through it. And I'm like, fuck, as I read that stuff, and. So then I look at like what stuff could I write, and when I was writing this stuff around Woe to the Vanquished press release, I'm like, Satan's a cartoon character. This is evil.
This is evil.
This is evil. This exists. And furthermore, look at that shit. That's black and white. That's like earliest possible cameras, right? That's jack shit compared to what's out there now. If you think about it on that level, it's terrifying. That's what like our song Firepower Kills was about. It's like, dude, in 1914, you got a Maxim gun. You could put the British Army did an experiment with a 1897 Maxim where they put 1 million rounds through it nonstop, just
it's going towards people too. It's going towards humans.
It's absolutely. Yeah, it's like mowing. And now we have more of that, and the biggest difference isn't so much the rate of fire, because we hit a point like 100 years ago where it's almost pointless to increase the rate of fire because of ammunition consumption and stuff. So the modern weaponry is largely about precision and targeting.
Okay.
Because in First World War, they didn't have that, so they would just blanket places, I shit you not, with like 4 or 5 million shells at a time. You want to bring one up? Search Passchendaele before and after. I love this photo. It's a town. It's an aerial photograph of a town before and after an artillery bombardment. They shell it for like 2 weeks. You'd find another image. There's an aerial photograph, and it looks like someone took a meat. It's spelled a little different. Yes, there it is. That. So there's a town, and there's like, it looks like someone swung a meat. It's like God swung a meat tenderizer down like 1,000 times. It's completely unrecognizable. And because they didn't have advanced,
destroyed.
Not only that, the land itself is like gone. Like it's so they would do that because they couldn't. Basically, if there's like a trench in there with some machine guns in it, you need to make sure those machine guns are out. And so they would be like, okay, we'll shell it for 2 weeks. Continue. It's like, oh my God. And then you think about that and you're like, so that means the people at home had to produce the 4.5 million shells.
This is just a month.
This is one of many.
One of many. So this is, so if you're watching, hopefully you can see this, October 1917 to November 1917. It's a completely different land.
Yeah, they turned this big 500-mile stretch of Western Europe into the surface of the moon. So this just like, when I started reading a bunch about this, I got utterly like horrified and fascinated. I'm like, this is like some apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy, but it's not fantasy.
It's real.
And so a lot of the stuff of the band and what I try to capture, what I try to take out of this for my metal music is my sense of being appalled, basically.
Sure.
Because you never, ever see I don't know, the Kaiser or whatever never mobilized 8 army groups to go and like build houses for the needy or anything.
Yeah.
Humans can't seem to get it together for anything good, but you see their absolute talent in organization, in pushing themselves, and just like getting something colossal to happen only for the very worst of reasons. And so that, you know, like I said, we'll deserve the asteroid when it comes. But
yeah, does that give you what song? I'm sorry for my memory loss. There's a song that you base out of a Russian novel, One Day in the Life of Ivan.
That's Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who's a controversial and interesting character.
Yeah.
He was a Soviet political dissident from the Cold War era who wrote One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. Is an interesting one. It describes a day in the Gulag. And it's brutal and harsh. The part you remember the most is when they go. So they're in a gulag in Siberia, and when they go in from meal times, the guards will take whoever the last one in line is and beat the shit out of them. And you know, someone might say, "But isn't someone always going to be last?" And then the guards would retort, "Yes, comrade, and it's best that that person not be you." So you can see the logic, but like that's a brutal thing. Now. One thing to be so Solzhenitsyn isn't like you know, he's interesting. There's a really great song too if you're into like 70s prog. The band Renaissance has a song Mother Russia about him. It's like a 9-minute epic, and it's phenomenal. It's a great song. And the part in the middle where she's doing these wordless oohs is like a cry from the ancient tundra. It's fucking gorgeous. A really good gem that we found randomly somewhere. But anyway, that's about Solzhenitsyn too. But he's just a guy who wrote about the experience of the Gulag. Now, there's some asterisks to put in his book Gulag Archipelago. If you believe the numbers, that means the Soviet Union had like 20% of its population in the Gulag. They did not. Furthermore, and there's some perspective we Americans need, we have more people in prison right now than they did under Stalin.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, granted, we're a larger population, but our prison population is very high, and it's funny because you call...
Where's that right now?
What?
Jake, can we fact check that? How many people are in prison currently?
And furthermore, there was no like great exodus from the Gulags mostly during the Stalin period of the Soviet Union. They decline after. So, you know, Solzhenitsyn's kind of like, I learned later after I wrote the song, he kind of ends up being like a bit of a fascist, which so a lot of, so that's not the greatest, but he's an interesting historical character.
So as of 2022, the U.S. prison population has totaled 1.223 million.
That's about one. So we got like what 370, 380 million people in the country.
Yes.
So that's it's a pretty good chunk.
And it's increased by 2% from the year prior.
Right. And so one thing to note too is the use of words. You call a Soviet prison a gulag, and it sounds very scary. Our prisons, you don't call them that, but you know what's Guantanamo Bay if not?
Sure.
Right. So just a thought. But anyway, I try to write. So "Enemy of the State's" a really cool song off.
Enemy of the State. Okay, yes.
That's the one, and it's the the idea of how we'll just imprison dissidents and stuff. I'm worried we might get there, but there is documented history in our country of using something like the war on drugs to target the left, to target racial minorities, and basically put them into the prison system, which, as you guys, if you don't know this, you should. The 13th Amendment, the one that freed the slaves at the end of the Civil War, said it bans slavery except as punishment for a crime, and that's one of the biggest asterisks of all history. So that's why prison labor is lucrative, and that's why we have the prison industrial complex, because there's no, if you're owning any kind of business enterprise, there's no better labor than free labor, and free labor is forced labor. So it's you look at all this evil stuff and you go, how could it happen? And then the other side of that is it's entirely logical. And that's another element I try to get in that music, because usually I'm not talking about all this evil shit from like the hippie perspective of like, man, this is terrible, man, which is how I actually feel. I'm always like trying to take the persona of like the evil power that's making it happen and being like, you know, and kind of bring that out. So in like Sword and the Cross, it's not talking about how unfair it is that the lords exploit the peasants. The lords going like, you idiot peasants, the god you pray to, I put him there. I'm laughing at you as you toil for me, you know, like, so I really look at those kind of things. And this record in particular, I'm really trying to look at like dynamics and structures of power and get these kind of abstract things in a very like personalized voice out.
Nice.
So stuff like A Better World or Cage of Air is what we might call society, you know, social conditions under late capitalism or something, which is where we're at as a society right now. The way that like the loss of community, the fact that you're this isolated individual, and to try to like stab at, there's a lot of interesting stuff you can read that stabs at the basic question of like, so we have more stuff, more technology, more convenience than at any time before. So why are people fucking depressed? You know, and just hits at that question. And the best answer I've seen is there's like social conditions. So I'll talk about the song Better World right now. There's a line in there that says, I swallow these prescriptions because the problem is me.
Fuck.
That's sick. No, and that's trying. There's this, and what I'm doing with lines like that is trying to boil down these kind of like social theory concepts. There's a book that was written in 2009 called Capitalist Realism by Mark Fisher, and it's social theory. So you'll hear him talking about Derrida and postmodernism and this stuff that I halfway understand. He also makes these pop culture references. Let me tell you one of the ones that stuck with me.
Please.
He talks about the case of Kurt Cobain.
Oh, really?
So, and he's looking at music and cultural stuff as like a way of social forces. So he says, okay, so in the 80s, we institute what they call neoliberalism, which is basically like the beginnings of the modern economic world where everyone's an individual contractor for themselves. There's no like, we're peeling back the social safety nets. We're peeling back community, and you got to offer the market something. You can be a podcaster. You can be a thrash metal singer. You can be anything you want as long as you can fucking pay the bills. The market, if you can pay your bills and you can pay for your life, the market's telling you that you're doing right. And if you can't, the market's telling you you're doing wrong. And the market will dictate your life. There won't be like much of a safety net for you, and you gotta hustle, motherfucker. You know, that's our world, right? It starts with Reagan and Thatcher, but it kind of goes through. It starts with Pinochet in Chile, if you really want to look at it, under a dictatorship, not under a democracy. But if you don't know about that, that's a whole other thing. But it's a big deal for the modern world.
I can already tell this is we're gonna need a part 2 and 3, and you're gonna come back for your whole life, dude. This is unbelievable.
Oh, dude, I'm just spitting, you know. But like, trying to just talk about some of these things. So anyway,
thank you, John.
Due to so Mark Fisher's saying, due to these conditions, the social conditions of neoliberalism are alienating. They just they disconnect you from community. Like, we don't live and take care of our parents anymore. You like leave the nest and you go, you're a contractor for yourself and you got to go do something else. And if you live with your family, you're actually a loser, in fact, we think.
It is true.
That's not how most of history was. People typically would live in like multi-generational homes. There was way back when like common land. So like if you're a person who you would find being homeless today, you would farm the common lands and you would still be part of the community instead of not. Because if your head ducks below water in the market race, you're a homeless person and no one even wants to talk to you and you don't have a life anymore, pretty much, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll add, what's the use of the homeless? Because we usually think of them like there's no use, right? They're useless people. But there is a use in the social system, and it's this.
What's the use?
The use is if you're a person at the minimum wage jobs at the bottom end of the economy and you're struggling and wondering why the fuck you're showing up on time and whatever, you look at them and you're like, if I don't, that's what's going to happen to me. That's the use. Yeah. So they're essential. That's why we can't fix homelessness, is because then we wouldn't have our cheap labor.
Dude, it's crazy that you say that, because we actually have me and Sousa-sans, and even here, like I kind of have a joke where it's like because we're in California, so we're in Santa Ana, so we constantly see it. I'm like, we can't fail because this is literally we will be homeless.
Oh yeah, and it's in your conscience, 100%, dude. If you can't make $2K a month plus your car payment and your insurance and your phone bill and then you feed yourself on top of it, you can't do that every single month. It doesn't matter if you did that successfully for 10 years. If you fail on the 11th, fuck
Boom.
you.
You're out. That's true.
So anyway,
Wow.
so Fisher writes about Cobain. He says, in these conditions, which are alienating and depressive to many people, this guy writes this music that feels like disaffected and alienated, right?
Okay.
And then he said, this is Fisher's case, basically, as I'm remembering. And then he says, because all these other people are feeling these conditions, it becomes a smash hit. It becomes this musical wave that it was, right? And now Mr. Cobain is a huge star because he is the voice of these alienated conditions, in many respects. I can see it from this whole vibe. It's very different from like the 80s rock and stuff before it in that way.
Yeah.
And then now he's a walking contradiction because he was trying to be anti-consumerist, anti-commercial, etc. And now he is the flagship of those things because you can take.
It's fucked up.
You can take.
I never thought about it that way.
You can take. It's the same way you can buy like a Che Guevara T-shirt at Target. It's the same force going on here. You can take You can take revolutionary thought. You can take anti-system thought. You can take counterculture like punk or metal, which, by the way, have been defeated by this as artistic movements. Both punk and metal have been just soundly defeated by sales, basically, reabsorbed and reincorporated. And you can say fuck the system all you want, but you still want someone to buy your T-shirt, and that's the contradiction that makes you artistically impotent, in my opinion. So anyway, so now Fisher says because of this contradiction in his life, Cobain shoots himself in the head, and now because he did that, buy the T-shirt, Cobain, voice of a generation. The artistic move. This guy is a case study in it, but
unbelievable.
I thought that spoke to me when he wrote that. So he gets a lot of pop culture references in there. And another thing he talks about is mental health, and that's where that line, the prescriptions line I was talking about, comes from. He says that, okay, so you go to the shrink and you're like, Doc, I'm depressed. And the doctor is likely to tell you something like, you are depressed because you have low serotonin. Your brain chemistry is wrong. In fact, if you buy these wonderful pharmaceutical products, we can fix your broken brain chemistry.
Sure.
Right? But that doesn't answer the question. So why does so many people have lower serotonin? Maybe it's not a you thing, Yeah. So that's why that line, I swallow prescriptions because the problem is me. It's like if you have a world where there isn't really a great economic future, is not really an environmental future, and you're like, and you're 1 month out from homelessness forever, which a lot of people are because it's harder and harder to acquire home or that you actually own or whatever, which is, it's not a failure of the system, it's success.
Yes.
We're going to birth a trillionaire in my lifetime. It's going to be a great, right? Like at the expense of the many, the few will do great.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking scary out. In 2014, I was in therapy for like a few months. And he was a therapist. He was a cool guy. He was a nice gentleman, gay guy. He was nice, very, very, very sweet. But there was a time, and at literally only like a few months prior, I was already reading books on health, food, pills and stuff. So so the timeline was kind of creepy. I kind of already had like experience, and then about halfway through my session, he basically, now I look back, he maybe kind of tried to sell me on, hey, maybe you should try to take these pills for like anxiety or ADD. And luckily, like I was just in this, I was just reading a bunch of books about brain health. I was kind of like, oh no, I'm fine. Yeah. But man, imagine if I didn't have that knowledge and I would have taken them. Who fucking knows?
I almost did too, because I was like a little after our last record, I was it's like stuck in COVID. They jacked up our rent because they could.
Yeah.
And so we were already like head barely above water. Now you got to swim a little faster.
Yeah.
You stupid fucking peasant, turn the wheel, you motherfucker. We're going to turn the screws on you. And I felt it, and I knew that's what was happening.
Yeah.
So I went to the doc, and I'm like, Doc, I'm depressed because I don't think I have like an economic future. I don't know if I'll ever be able to retire. Like, I don't know if I'll be able to like give my wife a kid that I could actually pay for, and all this stuff.
Yeah, it builds up, dude.
This abstract shit like neoliberalism or whatever sounds like this super abstract thing, but it affects you in the argument you have with your girlfriend. Like, it's probably about money. There you go. So like this stuff, this shit hits you at the most intimate level, at the personal core of your being. In regards to like whether I regard myself as a success or failure, I'm in one of the coolest thrash bands there is of my whole time. I really think so. And I feel like depressed about it a lot because like it doesn't pay the bills, and so I'm like, the market is telling me I should do something else. And that's me, like, and my parents, who are never super supportive, are always like, when are you going back to school? And I'm like, God fucking damn it, I did something really cool with my life. Like, why do I feel like we got the 1 in a million? My garage band actually got signed. We got to tour with all these great bands, most of our influences. We've played 1 million shows, and most of them are great, and people love our records. Like, why am I even questioning that? So honestly, like, I have this weird inner emotional journey about my own work where I'm like almost feeling like, dude, I'm like a giant teenager. I'm not even a fucking man still because I don't make a strong paycheck doing this. It's like, that's the wrong value. That's not what I value, but I internalize it because that's the social logic around me. And sometimes, like, it goes into, if my wife's like, I have to make more of the money you do, like, that sucks for her. That's real. That's legitimate. And I feel that, and I'm like, I'm a failure. I'm not a fucking proper man or whatever. And that's like the voice of society sort of being of market forces, impersonal, mathematical shit, being like the devil on my shoulder, making me hate myself,
Yeah. But it's especially like the kind of music that we're involved in. It's like you always hear like, well, you got to do it until you're 40 or 50. And then when you're 40 or maybe even 50, that's when you cross over.
So I got 2 years left, and then I'm gonna fucking make it. That's right, because I'm not gonna. I don't know if I'll still be around by 50 if I can't do it.
Really?
Well, I mean,
why do you say that?
Because I basically can't do. Warbringer's playing old school thrash. It's a niche thing. We're one of the biggest of our time, but not the biggest. And even if we were, like, I basically got to sink or swim right now.
Fucking swim, dude.
I'm doing it. I'm on these tours, but like, I need these tours to like I can't. I gotta like take some money home and like pay for my house and show myself and my wife like, yo, I can support us with the work I do. The work I do is legitimate. It is valuable, and the market has to agree with me. And I have limited control over that. I can play a better show. I can put out a cooler T-shirt or whatever. But I need that to actually work. And that's just where I'm 38. I have a house. I have a wife. She probably will be disappointed in the long run if we can't have a kid. And that'll be like a festering wound, and I can't let that happen. So I have to. I'm gonna bust my ass and do my best, but like I have to. Like I'm worried. A lot's riding on this. My future, my life is. I need to be successful, and by successful, I don't mean that we get a great review on our record. I'm like, I gotta fucking pay the mortgage with this, and that's something I've never been able to do. It's always been I'm managing to skate by in spite of this. It's kind of like that.
Is there for you and a Warbringer? Is there any like little light at the end of the tunnel? Do you see anything?
The weird one is I think our best strategy is to hang around until all our influences quit.
Dude, because that's a real thing, man. It's honestly it's a real thing.
No, it is, and it's like. It's a two-sided coin, because I'm really happy to see a lot of the great bands from the 80s still playing, and many of them I think are still doing valuable work on the stage and in the studio. Not all, but like that's my own critical opinion. But to put it one way, I'm like, okay, Black Sabbath is about to play their last show. That's the first metal band.
Sure.
So you're not just competing against every band of your own time. You're competing against every metal band that ever was, basically, the last 50 years of it. And I'm like, that's... And one of the things that, if you ever want to trip for anyone who's in a band, if you put out a record or any release, go on Metal Archives for the day it comes out, and you'll probably find yourself on the second page of releases for just that one day. And that's like an, oh, fuck. The world is so vast, and so many people make records that
it's going, dude. It's fucking nuts.
you're like, how do you stand out in that? It's utterly crazy. And doing that as like a business model to try to live off of is like straight insanity. I must be insane because I love it. I'm still doing it. But I think of that and I'm like, fuck, dude, we got no chance. Sometimes I feel that way. When we're doing this, I'm taking the opposite attitude. I'm telling everyone, like, it's going to work. We're going to do it. We're going to fucking conquer the world, because you have to.
You have to.
You have to feel that way. But I struggle with that. And so going back to the therapy, I'm going and, like, wonder, I was thinking of, like, well, do I need to quit this? Do I need to, like, because I could get, like, a real proper teaching job instead of doing, like I had a good gig in LA. I moved, so now I'm just, like, doing part-time tutoring. And it sucks. It's not, like I like the work. It's valuable work. But I can't. I'm, like, barely staying afloat, So it's, like, I'm sacrificing a chance of, like, a stable job at the district or whatever by doing this. And I'm, like, and by doing that, I'm asking my wife, I'm like, honey, keep working hard so that I can do this. And it's just, like, asking a lot of her and everything. So she's really supportive too. This is me and, like, my guilt for putting that on her, so I'm just really gonna try to rally, like, the best shows we can and try to make it happen, and work my ass off.
It sounds like you're under a lot of pressure, and I could relate when you're under an immense amount of pressure, and then you gotta put on the bass.
Yeah.
Because you have bandmates, and you have to, like, put down your own emotion to kind of make sure they're all right.
Absolutely. No, I can't bring this energy to, like, in the van or anything.
Absolutely
100%.
not.
Yeah, but when I'm in an interview like this, I'm like, I kind of decided a while ago, I'm like, fuck it, I'll just be entirely truthful, because that's, like, better. That's real. Yeah. People will know, and other people have those in their lives. Everyone in my band has those parallel struggles of their own.
Sure.
And that's the kind of stuff that might make you want to take an antidepressant or whatever. They medicated the shit out of me when I was a kid,
Really?
Oh, yeah. They had me on, like, I remember, like, grinding my teeth because they had me on 30 milligrams of Adderall in the 5th grade and stuff. And it was, like, more of that. There's, like, there's something wrong with you. And like I said, I worked in teaching and stuff, so I'm teaching kids. And a lot of kids are medicated because you shove them into, here, kid, you got to go sit there for 7 hours and pay attention. And then do 3 hours of homework, Adderall, Ritalin, stuff like that. All the normal shit. And it's hard when you talk to a therapist to know, like, is that the best option for me? Because there's an economic motive for them to say, yes, buy the pill. The sale is made. That's good for the economy if you buy the pill. You buy the goods and services. It's good. It's good for the manufacturer. It's good for the pharmacist. Whatever.
Yeah.
So so you can't even, like, trust an honest assessment because this ulterior motive just exists. So where I ended up not when I was at therapy, because I was pretty much like, doc, I feel this way. I have these concerns about the big picture world, and then I have these concerns about the small picture world, my own life, right?
Sure.
And they're pretty much like, all that's entirely legitimate and true. Is basically real, the problems you're talking about, whether also the environment moving forward is a big one. Like, what's, I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
But they're like, all that's real and legitimate, and what we can do is pretty much numb you to it. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to be numbed to it, because that's what it does ultimately, right?
Yeah.
Or I have a lot of students that'll say, like, I got a freaking, like, 8-year-old who's got trouble reading that I'm working with, and he's like, he'll say, oh, I can't do it. I forgot to take my medication, so I can't do it today. I'm like, that's what you're telling yourself. Because, and it wasn't his idea that he can't do shit without the medication. That's like, that idea was put in his head, I believe. And
How old are these kids?
I've worked with kids everywhere from, like, 8 to, like, 18 to, I've tutored guys that are, like, in their 30s doing master's. So I'm a freelancer. You need to know math, science, social studies, history, or how to write a damn good essay. I'm a I've hawked my services at that. Even subjects I've never taken. I helped the guy get his master's in therapy because I can write a good research paper, because that's what I learned how to do in history. So I didn't know as much about therapy or therapeutic techniques as he did, but I'm like, here's the paper. I can get you on that. Here's how we read this study on the mental effects of community gardening, which was remarkably detailed.
Yeah.
But like all this stuff we had to write, and I helped him get through all the writing. So and he got his degrees working. He's practicing in Florida now. So I worked from everything from like basic phonics to like advanced analysis of a study on psychological effects of stuff, and just I can be good at that stuff, and I've kind of had to be so I can take jobs and get paid, right? Yeah. So
I wonder the effects if you take that. I wonder the short-term effect, not even long-term, but short-term effects on their creativity.
That's an interesting question indeed.
Because you're more focused, but you're not feeling. I need to feel to write. Correct?
It's so I've definitely, like, when I was a kid, I was able to feel and stuff. It wasn't that. I just felt like fucking high strung and focused. If you want a really good, you know, Calvin and Hobbes. I would hope so.
No.
So Calvin and Hobbes is a really wonderful comic strip. There was I think it was not even done by, so it's about a boy and his imaginary tiger, and the boy is what you would call neurodivergent. He's a big problem for his mom and everything, and he's a weirdo basically, and he's really entertaining. And his imaginary tiger Hobbes and him have these adventures, and they'll do like discussions about philosophy while riding in a wagon and then crashing at the bottom of a hill. And it's all this wonderful stuff about boyhood and growing up and life. It's probably the best comic strip ever made, I would say.
Really?
Yeah. For like this kind of Sunday paper comic strip thing. There was a last comic made for it that wasn't, I think, made by Bill Watterson, the author, but there's one about Calvin gets medication. And it's great. I don't know if you could find it. Yeah, so it's because Hobbes is a stuffed tiger. There it is. Yeah.
Oh, we got it.
So Hobbes is a stuffed tiger who comes to life, and everyone else sees the stuffed tiger, but Calvin sees the actual living tiger, right?
Okay.
So in this, basically, Calvin is finally focusing on his homework, which he never, ever, ever does. And he's like, sorry, Hobbes, I can't go outside and play and, you know, ride a sled with you. And then the panel turns gray, and Hobbes is just a stuffed tiger again. And that, I think, is that's brutal. It's very artistic, I think, in how, and I don't think this is, I'm not.
That fucking hit me, dude. Wow.
Yeah, it's heavy, dude. As a kid who was medicated and stuff, this hits me pretty hard, I gotta say. So, you know, when dealing with kids on medication, I'm like, you know, the idea that they believe that they need this in order to succeed or to be a valuable person or whatever, I'm like, you gotta push back against that. At one point,
man, that was fucking heavy. Jesus.
Dude, yeah, I know, dude. Oh, I see it.
Jesus, man.
No, that did hit, dude. I see the, you know, you're getting a little leaky there. I felt, no, this made me cry too, dude, straight up. Because I experienced, I can tell.
Imagination is dead.
I can tell from your face that you experienced, you know, experienced some of that. I did too, man. And that's, so, you know, that hit me, dude. And I see it on kids say they don't believe that them as they naturally are is like good enough in some way. And that hurts, man. You know, you want everyone to, because what school's really for, at least up to a point, is teaching you to be a good, obedient worker.
Yeah.
As George Carlin puts it, you need someone who's smart enough to run the machines, but dumb enough to accept the raw deal they're getting. Yeah. But yeah, dude, I'm sorry, man.
That was heavy, man.
No, it's a real one. I'm glad that resonated with you. I think it's a valuable thing to think about today when there's this idea, if you don't fit in the box, take medication, there's something wrong with you. It's like, no, the problem's outside me. The problem's the water, not the fish. You know, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm valuable. You need to believe that inside. Like that's something I've been working on and struggling with myself. Like, and I gotta say, some of the reactions to like the records, the shows and stuff really helped me with that.
Oh, great.
Because there's this external, and I'm sure you felt it too, where like the work you put out, you're like, it was I did something
to like see like the reaction, see and hear.
Right.
It does help.
And
it does.
Yeah, and like
does,
you took something that wasn't yourself as an accountant or whatever, like, right? It's yourself as a player, as a musician, putting out art and doing, like in our case, heavy fucking jams and stuff. And people connect to it and they love it. And you're like, I did do the right thing. I didn't need to be fixed. I was fine all along. You know, I feel some of that sometimes, and that's a positive thing to feel, I think.
Yeah, man, you gotta. There's like I'm not sure what I'm trying to say or how to put words to it, but there's like a part of me where like I like feeling the anxiety. I like feeling like the pressure because I know that it's good. I feel alive.
100%. Yeah, and you shouldn't have to like medicate away every negative feeling. There's a dude, it just makes me think of this bit from Huxley. You know, Brave New World, the book.
No.
Okay. So, you mind if I go on a spiel here?
Please.
Let's spiel again, number 9 here or something. So Huxley wrote there's basically 2 classic dystopian novels, and they're 1984 and Brave New World. And to put it simply, 1984 is the Iron Fist, where they control everyone through fear and terror and pain, and Brave New World's the Velvet Glove. It's where they control you through pleasure and your short-term pleasure receptors and through avoidance of pain. So in their fictional world, everyone's basically a giant infant, and they all work. They all get stuff done for the evil government that's running everything in Brave New World. But no one's sad. No one feels pain because every time you would feel any emotional discomfort, or whatever, they medicate you. They have a drug they call Soma, which in the real world's a muscle relaxer.
Yeah.
But in their book, it's like a fictional wonder drug that makes you never, no sadness at all. Furthermore, you don't have like real relationships. Everyone kind of, they use weirdly infantile terms for sex, which is like they call they have a time they call orgy porgy, and what this is
Orgy porgy.
Oh yeah, it's fucked. But what they're getting at, it's fucked up, and this hits at some. So that sounds screwy, but this hits at something really strong, which is if you just give everybody everything they want all the time, all the vectors of pleasure they might seek, then they don't deepen, they don't develop, because it's like the loss and the pain that makes you a person. And they don't have it. And so in this book, the main character is a guy called the Savage, who would be like a mid-20th century educated English guy. So he knows his like Shakespeare and whatever. And he's going, and like to them, he's a savage because he's felt pain, he's felt the human experience, he knows all this triumph and tragedy, and they just know like being basically buzzed and happy and getting and getting their dick sucked all the time or whatever. And they don't know any pain. They're like a fucking grown up baby. They work and they do that, and then they get their drugs, they get their food, they get their sex, and they're fucking fat and happy, and they don't ever feel pain. And so there's a part in there that really hits you where the Savage is like falls in love with the girl there, and he wants to love her, but he wants to actually love her and like know who she is and feel life with her, and she's just not capable. And so he's trying to like tell her what he wants, and he's quoting all these like poetic lines from Shakespeare at her, and she's basically sitting there like, you're weird, you want to fuck? No. And he's like, no, like I want to love you, but you aren't there, like there's no you to love, like, and I'm like, that's something that's one of the more powerful things I've read about like medication and its effects too, where like you almost need the pain, you need the divergence, you need to deal with your own weirdness and your own shortcomings and whatever, and handle that, and with and like do it of yourself in order to, I think, grow and to develop. And I think by like you kind of stunt people by giving them some shortcuts. So that's why personally, I'm not speaking for anyone else, but for me personally, that's why I like as a kid, actually a little before I started the band, I kind of was like, fuck your medication. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. Maybe they should give me more interesting shit in school, and I would be interested, or like, so on. And another one that too I remember saying is, I was like, everyone's always, when you're growing up, they're like, what do you want to be? They always ask you what, not who. They're not like, do you want to be a kind person? How do you want to handle when someone's mad at you? It's not that. It's like, what are you going to do for the economy, kid? And if you tell your dad, like, you want to play guitar or something, he'll be like, well, you're fucking stupid. How about you be an accountant? Right? So that's kind of that may as well be like the voice of the economy speaking through your dad as a vessel or something, you know?
Yeah. You have some really cool quotes, John. This might be a old belief you have, so I'm curious what you think today, and if it changed. You said that you don't believe in God or the devil.
No.
So you're still there.
Yeah, I'm an atheist basically.
Okay.
If there were such a thing as a God, it would be so utterly beyond our comprehension that no existing church or book would be able to describe it to you. And then certainly I was raised in a church. I say sometimes that because I more or less believe in the Christian moral code, and that's why I'm not a Christian. love thy neighbor and stuff. And, I maybe learned a little too much history about crusades and whatever,
sure.
And then also the intolerance in our own time. Like, why is it that if you go to church and you hear love thy neighbor that you end up like hating gay people or something?
Yeah.
Right, like why is that? And I'm not saying everyone, or like if I talk to my mom or something, or like many people, they'll say, "Well, that's not like what the Bible says. That's the corruption of it." I'm like, why do we have fucking thousands of years of the corruption of it mainly? In the and the church, for instance, in Tsarist Russia, the church backed the monarchy to legitimate the Tsar's oppression of his people. Oh, God chose him, and I, the serf who's being exploited, believe in God, so thus I will accept my condition, which is like what verse 2 of Sword and the Cross is about, that idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like, hey, the Lord's, the power structure that exists, built the church that you go to that tells you that that I'm like anointed by God. This is how they did it in the Middle Ages. And actually up until like the early 20th century to an extent. But like that, and that there's some legitimating ideology, and the way it's not always, but religion is so often used in service of rapacious, exploitative power that I have to, at the very least, heavily raise an eyebrow to it. And the thing is, I'm an atheist who basically holds what you might call a Christian moral ethos too. Love thy neighbor, turn the other cheek, be calm, treat other people how you want to be treated. So like I do believe all that. It's the divinity stuff I raise an eyebrow to, and then the way that message gets used for social control or to get people to go to war or any of that. That's why I can't be part of any of that. Furthermore, and this is just me being a bit grim, people really, really, really want to believe that something's going to happen to them after they die. And I think if you want to believe something, you probably shouldn't.
Okay.
That's like working against your own cognitive. Like, I would love to think that there's some great destiny to me and I'll see my dead grandma and my dead cat, Patsy Cline, in the afterlife and we'll be chilling on a cloud. Like, that would be amazing. I would love to believe that, and that's why I don't. Because, I would love it. That sounds so wonderful.
That's sick, but no.
If you just want realistic analysis, no, grave, worms, black.
Wow.
That's what I'm hoping. And if anything else happens, like, great. But that's... People believe these crazy fucking stories in order to not look that in the eye. Grave, worms, infinite darkness. You want to believe anything but that, because that's the most painful possible thing to imagine.
It's true. I think the most painful thing, I think that's the biggest fear. Just goes black.
Yeah.
It's just fucking...
We got a song from World Tour. This is a song, Shattered Like Glass, that talks about mortality, and the guy's basically like, I'm dying and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I try to hit that. I am afraid of it. Anyone who says they're not afraid of death is a fucking liar.
Oh, of course. Yeah. There's definitely at least some fear of it. Do you think that affects your belief of where your band's going?
I think it comes out in a variety of it, because I think if you go through a whole discog, you'll see sort of the grim realism that I was just expressing there.
It's like, hey, I don't have faith in this. Oh shit, is my band even going to make it?
Oh, well, right. There's myself on the existential level, and then myself on like the professional level, and they're not totally unrelated. I would say, though, like, sometimes some songs, like the ones coming to mind is like Divinity of Flesh off Woe to the Vanquished, kind of hit at this like longing for legacy, for something everlasting. I think the best we can do as human beings is write, make art, make stuff, do something to affect the world, build something or help someone or any of that. That's how you live on. That's the only way you can, because you yourself won't, but your deeds and whatever you lay down will affect the future, because that's because the future comes from the past, is a product of it. If you there's a cool book by Isaac Asimov, Foundation, where a guy figures out how to boil history, cause and effect, into a mathematical equation.
Really?
Yeah, they call it the psychohistorian. So he's using like laws of thermodynamics to mathematically predict history. And it's like, if we were more advanced, that probably would be doable, the web of causality and cause and effect. And that's the only way I think that we actually live on, is by like affecting that, by tugging those strings in some way. And people have often talked about like how sort of butterfly effect type things, but with lives, not with, you can do something that gives someone a chance or like a thought that then they go doing something that affects all this stuff. And you don't know what the long-term consequences of small actions will be.
True.
And like that song I was talking about, Divinity of Flesh, it was kind of trippy laying it down because there's a bit where just like, the end of the song, I'm like, my soul will not perish long after I'm gone. My words will live on. I'm like, dude, they actually will. This record will be around after I'm dead. Sure. And so I was like, got kind of a chill putting that because I'm like, oh yeah, that's the closest you can get to living after death, I think, is to give something to the world that outlasts you. And even then, everyone's doing that too. So which doesn't diminish your effort.
Sure.
Which doesn't. But then I think of like Ozymandias or something. You know that one?
No.
Oh, this is a sick old ass poem. So Ozymandias is a poem about you see this like ruin in the desert, and it's a statue, right? And it's just out in the middle of sand. It's ruined, and on this base of the statue, it has a really sick metal sounding quote where he says, "I am Ozymandias, king of kings. Look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair." And that's just fucking awesome sounding, first off. And then it's like, this guy was once a great king, and now it's just a ruin in the sands. And he's like, look upon my works and despair, ye mighty. And now it's just nothing. Desolation. And I'm like, that is a great way to think of, like, even the mightiest, the greatest and stuff. It all crumbles to dust. And we have to, like, kind of put that in our pipe and smoke it as human beings, And totally. Even if a great king can't even keep his legacy alive, then, what can we do? And the answer, I think, is just everything you can. You do the best you can, and that's the point, That's all it is. Try to. So for me, I'm like, I try to be good as a singer and a musician. I try to write the absolute best I can. I try to perform the absolute best I can, and I try to be like basically kind to every person I meet, to the extent that it's possible for me to not be a dick.
Dude, that's what. Dude, when we get older, that's basically what we're trying to do. Is like, how can I be less of a piece of shit? They'll say, hey, let me use my blinker. Hey, let me try to recycle a little bit. Hey, let me try to do that. So it's like you're just trying to like, because I know maybe for like you, it's a good way to do it to close it off too. When you do research on history, or for me, how I do, I'll just look up fucked up videos of people like murdering people.
Sure.
You will lose faith in people and humanity when you see how things were and happened.
Right.
So have you lost faith in people?
Not entirely, because it is necessary for me to not do it in order to like wake up tomorrow. I have to have some left. This record is generally expressing the negative side of it.
Yeah.
But I look at it as like, this is my devil on the shoulder talking here. There's definitely a part of me that's way more hopeful. I sometimes describe it in terms of like the war themes and some of the socio-political stuff we talk about. I say it's hippie music in reverse.
Yeah.
Because like I'm a pacifist. I want peace and love and a better standard of living for the global poor and, and protection of the endangered species of the world and the beauty of nature to be seen for 10 generations from now. And I want all that,
Yeah.
And I'm expressing like the fear and revulsion of the stuff that works against all that, I guess. But it's not all I feel. And I as much as I think humanity in the big picture is kind of awful in a lot of ways, The Matrix, Agent Smith, what I call the Agent Smith thesis, where he tells Morpheus how humanity's a virus, that whole speech, that's kind of true in the big picture. But in the small picture, people are fucking wonderful.
There is a lot of cool people out there, man.
I haven't talked to you for years, and I'm having like a blast doing this now.
It's fun.
I meet all kinds of people that I just like them on the first go, and they're different from me in all these interesting ways, and they think different, and they live different stuff, and it's endlessly fascinating people. So I try not to lose that, but in the big picture, like when you put people into like organized systems and they be, it's pretty bad, dude.
Yeah, man. I always say this. This is my personal like belief system. I think, I think there's 100% there's actual pure-hearted good people out there. I think there's actually good people out there, but as long as there's humans on this planet, there will always be rape, murder, torture, and greed.
100%.
As long as there are humans on this planet, and people that pretend to be civil are actually the ones that I get like my bullshit meter goes up. It's like the Joker quote. It's like all of the civilized people are the ones that will eat each other if shit hits the fan.
100%. It was the most it's the most civilized people have done the most barbaric things, and you
it's crazy.
I mean, and, hell, if you talk about this is some very like colonial era thinking, but Europe once thought itself civilized while the rest of the world was barbaric and primitive. Rest of the world never did like the 2 world wars. Like nothing in the history of like the Aztecs doing ritual sacrifice or whatever could compare to like a day on the Somme or something, with the sheer like butchery at scale, it takes civilization to be organized enough to be really barbaric. You were talking about those murder videos. I had the thought at one point, I'm like, what does Jeffrey Dahmer have on like a panzer division in Russia as far as like carnage and pain that he caused? He's not organized enough. He doesn't have like a general staff and logistics commanding thousands of men and tanks to go and like destroy thousands of people's lives. Another one you said regarding good-hearted people, and I think you could look at this in anytime you have like an army that fought for an evil cause or something, it's like in theory you got a few million people in like, I don't know, the Confederate Army with evil cause for sure, just in case any of you Americans don't know that, or like the Germans in Russia or whatever. These are fucking armies that fought for straight up evil causes, the most clear cut that I think you can find in history. There must have been guys who like loved their wives or their dog, or were like good to their dog or whatever, or while we're at it, there's probably plenty of police that are like good people in their lives, but if you're working for a systemic force that does bad things, it doesn't fucking matter if you're a nice guy. That's the thing that I think is really important to note, is like and just like your landlord can be nice to you too, he still has a material motive to exploit you. Whether he's a nice person or a mean person is almost irrelevant.
Totally.
So it's like the intersection of systemic forces versus since you have these Confederates on here, I'll just say one of the things about the guys who died for that cause is a lot of them, in my view, were basically the dupes of the plantation class. The guys who owned the slaves got the guys who kept the slaves in line to go and die, so the owners could try to keep their fucking human property. It's fucking awful. But a lot of Southerners, I'm in the South now. I see some of those flags around, and I've raised an angry eyebrow at it, and General Sherman, do it again. But anyway, I look at that and I go, like, the history you're proud of is that of being duped to fight for like the rich aristocrats above you. Because if your dad if your great grandpappy actually fought at Fredericksburg or whatever, he probably wasn't one of the officers. He probably didn't even stand Anyway, that's some fucked up social, racial shit in America that's still so with us, and it's like weird since I moved to the South, the level that people are like proud of. I'm like, what's there to be proud of there? I don't understand it, but it's like that's like a fucking cancer in our history for sure. But the point I'm trying to make is the way that you could have it doesn't matter if you were a good guy individually if you're in some systemic process that's bad. You could be a really nice guy, help like working human resources or like working on claims for a healthcare company, denying people their care, and you're doing a good job for your boss, and you're probably nice to your family and whatever. And so what? Ditto with the fucking CEO who just got shot. If he really cared about his wife and kids, he wouldn't have been in that job where he's ruining other people's lives with their wives and kids to make it so anyone would even want to shoot him. Like, no one would want to shoot me because I've never done anything like that to anybody. And I do that because I care about myself and because I care about my family,
that dude, that fool just fucking walked up to him and shot him, dude. Just fucking shot the guy and killed him.
No tears. Not one. In fact, you know what? When they guillotined the fucking king in the French Revolution, I don't cry for that either. I'm just surprised it didn't happen sooner.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I feel about that. And I think we could use a few more of those now. I think I think 100%. No, fuck it, dude. You know how labor got its rights in the first place? Do you know what fucking labor used to look like in this country? They used to fucking shoot people for striking. If you look at like Harlan County, Kentucky, they would straight up. I was reading shit where like guys were trying to unionize, and we're talking like so they could get a fucking bite to eat so they could feed their goddamn kids. Men who worked in the mines all fucking day are just like, we don't want to be rich. We just want to live. Please. And we're trying to organize for that. And people, they would hire thugs to throw like a stick of dynamite into their kitchen. The thing is too, the companies would hire private militias like but there's a bunch of stuff. The one I read was called "They Say" in Harlan County. Okay. There's a song it's a folk song performed by Pete Seeger. Whose side are you on? It's like a labor one, but you know, it was apparently written by a woman whose house was attacked because her husband was in the union. But anyway, they used to do this shit to keep labor down. When we say keep labor down, we're talking about the peasants. That means you, probably. You know, you, me, almost everyone. Right. So it took militant action. Like, they didn't just stand around and be like, please give us more, you know, a better deal. No, there was violence. And at the end of the day, I have to applaud that violence, because I'm a pacifist. I don't believe in it, but we say so much about like, oh no, this guy got shot. So when someone rich dies, it's like, oh, you know, how could they? They were so But when someone poor dies, fuck them. We don't even notice. You know, so that's if we actually care about life, we need to look at it holistically and talk about what is just the passive turning of the gears every day doing to people. Anyway, they didn't get the 8-hour work day and you know, retirement and all that stuff because they asked politely. It was a lot more, hey, me and the boys, we're gonna fucking burn down your house if you don't give us a better deal, because you're destroying our lives, and there's a lot more of us than there are of you. We'll destroy yours back. And I think that the ruling class in America loves to pretend we don't have a ruling class. We do. It's actually the most successful ruling class in human history. They have done better the modern lords have done better at siphoning the wealth from the planet, better than the medieval lords ever could. They're way better at it. That's what kind of Sword and the Cross is about, is the idea that lords and peasants never went away. It rebranded itself. And instead of believing that the lords were chosen by gods, now we believe that the lords are the most successful, smartest entrepreneurial innovators who provide, you know, effective solutions to the market, and that's why they deserve their position, right? It's a mythology. It's just a different one. And if I work hard enough, I could even be the lords. You know, Futurama. There's a bit where like they're at some political thing, and some guy's doing some like fuck the poor speech, and Fry's like, yeah, and Leela's like, Fry, but you're poor, and Fry's like, yeah, but one day I won't be, and then guys like me better watch out. And I'm like, that is some smart right. Exactly. So this fucking sits in the American psyche for sure. And it's pretty much, if you look at history, I think that America, the West, not just America, probably the Western world today is more successfully propagandized than any people at any time in history. I think so. Because here's a Cold War joke. I'll put it this way in the terms of this joke. So there's this Cold War joke I heard that there's a Russian and American on a flight, right? And they're going to America, and I'm going to do some bad accents here. So the American says, hey there, sir. So what brings you to the United States? And the Russian goes, comrade, I come here to study your propaganda. And he's like, that's ridiculous. What do you mean propaganda? We're a free country. We don't have any propaganda. And the Russian says back, exactly, comrade. You know, and I think that's the power of it. You know, we don't necessarily recognize our propaganda as propaganda. There's some stuff you can look at, like Manufacturing Consent by Chomsky or Inventing Reality by Parenti, that talks about how like the free media is a filter because, for instance, you won't see the corporate news media be anti-corporate because, of course not. And it's not like they're censoring the anchor, but they just never would hire one who doesn't agree with them in the first place. It's like a filter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
So I think we are very heavily propagandized, and I think you need a certain out of your own time perspective to like understand that and be like, oh fuck. So I stabbed at some of these themes in songs like Better World and Cage of Air especially. I had a thought for Cage of Air when I was passing a fucking subway and I didn't see the sign. I see it out the corner of my eye and I just see the green and yellow and my brain goes subway. And I'm like, and then I go, what the fuck? I saw two colors and I associated with a brand and I did that myself. Yeah. And you probably would too. Red and white, Coca-Cola, you know, like on the level
Marketing,
of fucking colors, right? And we don't call that propaganda, but you get a fucking person to have this almost like Pavlovian conditioning response to something like that. I'm like, that's really, really, really effective propaganda.
It is.
Yeah. There's a bit from Zhuangzi, which is this ancient Chinese philosopher I had to read back in school, and he's pretty cool. He writes some cool stuff, but he puts a bit about like, it's something to the effect of, if you ask a toad in the bottom of a well what the ocean is, he would describe the well he's in. You know, so if we're very, I guess what I'm trying to say is our perspective is limited by our own experience, and it's like hard to get out of that. Yeah, Zhuangzi. It's in Zhuangzi. The frog of the maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to find it. I had to read it back in school. There it is. Yeah. Okay.
Oh shit, we found it.
So it's about your perspective because you can't know what's normal or whatever. How could you? You know what's normal for your time and place, and you might, I don't know, going back to earlier, you might think that because everything else is normal, that something's wrong with you and you need a pill or whatever. Yeah. But it's actually everything else that isn't normal, and you're fine. You know, and you're just having a rational response to a irrational, fucked up thing outside you. So
totally, I think people, especially like you definitely see it more in like the kids, like middle school, high school. Like you're supposed to feel uncomfortable. I wasn't comfortable. Everyone thinks that they need to feel right. I didn't feel comfortable in my skin and in my bones till I was 35.
I feel you, dude. I still have moments. Yeah.
Like, fuck, what the fuck? I'm 35 and I feel good. Yeah. Like, to have like these feelings in high school, I'm like, no, like that's how you're growing up. It's fucking weird.
Yeah, when you wonder, like, am I a loser? Am I cool enough with this girl like me or whatever? It's like there's an element to that's healthy because you worry. You're gonna try to like be cool, you know, like you're good or whatever, worthy in some way, and that it can be like a motive. And so there's definitely like a nasty side to that coin too if you internalize it too much, which I have at various points in my life. But
of course,
yeah, no, I absolutely agree that like it's something like people like growth is painful, but it's like necessary and it needs to be done. And if you can tell that to yourself and keep that in mind, it makes the process a lot easier, which is easier said than done. But
it's hard, dude. I don't have the answer for sure. It took me a while, you know.
Life's some crazy shit, man. And the good thing about that, though, is it means we won't run out of shit to write jams about. Because that's like the best we can do, I think, as humans is express through art, whether you're a painter, whether you're making films, whether you're doing photos, whether you're making metal or
art is infinite.
Yeah,
it's infinite, man.
I think it's
infinite.
It stabs at the closest thing to like that meaning and legacy stuff we were talking about earlier too. I think that's the closest you can really get to like achieving that in your personal life. You know, I'm just fucking dude. I'm really proud that these Warbringer records will be around. People can listen to me screaming at them after I'm dead, and hopefully they do. And if they don't, well, at least I tried. You know.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for like anyone's life to find something you can do that gets you that sense of purpose. The band's probably it's like apart from the band, it's really just like myself and like my wife and my home is like a different side of that where I'm like I have purpose in my life because I was a good husband, hopefully, to to my wife, and I was a good friend to my friend, and maybe one day I'll be like a good dad to a kid, hopefully, or whatever. I gotta do better than mine did, you know.
Yeah, man.
Still teach the war stuff, but not like Bale or whatever, you know. Yeah.
Fuck. Well, John, I don't think we missed anything.
I was about to say, like, yo, I can stop talking whenever you want, but I could also continue pretty much indefinitely, especially with having at this shit. Yeah.
No, anything about Warbringer that you want people to know that they may not know, or anything good?
Anything good? Well, if you don't know, I think we make the best thrash metal of the 21st century.
Fuck yeah, dude. Yeah.
So I think that at this point, I can say at confidence, we're not trying to be the best modern band or whatever. We're trying to be one of the greats of all time. We have 7 records, and none of them suck. You cannot find us. You can't find us sucking for like a single second on disc, really. So like, I think we try. You know, when people talk true metal or whatever, that's not for me. That's not a particular sound because musical exploration is part of what that's. But like, just we are playing uncompromising. I was listening to a bunch of our records on the drive out here, just thinking about the band, where we're going and stuff. And I'm listening to the first one. I'm like, goddamn, like we were pissed off as fucking heavy on this record, and like we've stuck to that. We've developed within it. I'm really proud of our work and our discography, and I'm hoping that leaves just a cool musical legacy, just that you can jam out for hours and hear a ton of sweet riffs, solos, ideas, songs, and just a lot of heart in it. So I'm really proud of that, and I think I think that we've like I'm just really proud of our body of work, and I think. It's just that I take immense pride in it.
Awesome, man. Well, we haven't spoken in many years, and from what I gather from this conversation, I could be wrong, John, but it seems like you're kind of struggling seeing the light in the end of the tunnel for your band. I think you just need to fucking do it, and I think your band's gonna be fine.
I think it's more just I mean, I'm worried about like just paying for shit in life.
I've been there too.
It's wildly expensive. And I worry that I'll hit a crossroads where I'll have to choose, like, do I go into like trying to be a teacher? Like what I'd really want to do is be a professor. And that means I need to go back to school for 2 years. Do I go that way, or do I keep with the band because they feel mutually exclusive? And I want plan A is the band for sure.
Do it, dude.
Yeah,
do it.
I'm here. Rap and Ruin just came out, and we got like 100 shows on the books, and there's gonna be more. So that's what I'm doing, and that's already been chosen before I even walked in the door here. That's why I'm even in LA. So I've chosen that way, and I'm fucking hoping. On that note, I'll say thanks to everyone who's ever supported my band in any way whatsoever, or ever even just listened to us and enjoy it, because that's what keeps us going. That's what keeps me going. And yeah, I'm definitely like trying to lead the group with the energy of it will work. Everything will be great. We're gonna run a tight ship, and we'll all go home with something for our hard and legitimate work that is legitimate work. God damn it, you know, screw what the market says, or you know, I should have. My parents still think I should have been like an accountant or a teacher or whatever. Like no, like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm gonna prove it's true. You know, so that's I appreciate your encouragement, and that's I've crossed that bridge already in my head, and that's why I'm even here in LA. Yeah,
good man. All right, John, thank you for your time, man, and good luck to you and the band.
Thanks, man. Thanks a lot. This was a lot of fun, dude. I didn't know what we'd get into. This was a really good one.
It was awesome, man.
Yeah, this was sick.
Thanks, man. All right, everyone, that's it. Later.
Woo! That was a fucking doozy right there, man.
What the fuck just happened?
Yeah, that was sick.
What
I
the
fucking
fuck
loved it,
just
dude.
happened?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know.